History Nuts. I'm Russ Carson Jr., the founder of Family Tree Nuts. At Family Tree Nuts, we build family trees for people, and we produce videos at historic locations and videos that help to honor your ancestors.
I'm Jameson Cable, founder of the Kentucky History Podcast, where we talk about anything Kentucky history, events, people. If it has to do with Kentucky, we're going to discuss it.
And we've teamed up together to bring you History Nuts.
History Nuts is a live show where we talk about, you guessed it, history.
Right. History seems to be less and less to people today, but we are trying to do everything we can to keep it alive.
Absolutely. History is a passion of ours for sure, but it connects to you. Russ, tell us about the best part of the show.
You can join in. You can comment and ask questions live.
We've got a great topic today, and we know you're going to enjoy this episode of
History Nuts.
Look at this. Look at this. Are we there? Hello. I got a frozen view. Are we there? Looks like I think I'm live, guys. I think I'm live. Somebody comment and let me know. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties, and you may just look at me for a few minutes until Jameson gets here, but I think we are in there. What's going on, guys? This is Colonel Carson with Family Tree Nuts, and we've got an awesome topic today. James Herrod. James Herrod, was he really the father of Kentucky or not? But anyway, make sure you chime in. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know. Yeah, Don says you are there. Carol says you are there. So we're good to go. We're trying to bring Jameson in. We've had a little bit of a technical difficulties, and we've got our producers of the show, Steady Ready, Jordan and Chris, are actually here at the international headquarters of Family Tree Nuts. They're in another room right now, but we've run into some hiccups there. So bear with us. This is literally live. And if we got to do it all with me, I'm prepared for that. We can do it, even though Jameson's supposed to lead this one here today. But comment with your questions. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you don't forget to subscribe to both Family Tree Nuts and the Kentucky History Podcast YouTube channels. Randy says hello. I see all kinds of people chiming in that they're watching. Cheryl says she's in Gallipolis, Ohio. Gallipolis, Ohio. Let's see. I got a message. Looks like sounds like we're good to go. Here we go. Yeah, this is literally live. I'm getting messages from lots of people chiming in there. But James Herrod. Who's James Herrod? If you chimed in, that means you probably know a little bit about him, or at least you want to find out about James Herrod. He's a guy that maybe did just as much and maybe even is entitled a little more to being a bigger deal than Daniel Boone, Simon Kenton, George Rogers Clark, Benjamin Logan, possibly. He was a leader in his community and was sent by the government to help to check out Kentucky. Boone was sent by a proprietor, a entrepreneur kind of thing. Herrod was actually sent by the government of Virginia to explore Kentucky to get some land grants for veterans of the French and Indian War. So he's maybe somewhat a little bit more legit, and we're going to talk about his life tonight and what he means. He's a guy that if somebody wrote about him, if he lived just a little bit longer, we might be we might have been playing James Herrod instead of Daniel Boone when we were little kids. Carol Gates Miller says she's watching from Iowa. And let's see, Randy Rhodes, I see there, man, what's going on? And Jim's watching, Abe is watching. Try not to get too far and deep there, guys. Hope you stay with us. Trying to get Jameson in there. Jameson's got the lead on the show tonight. I could talk for about 17 hours about James Harrod if you'd like, but don't want to go too in detail there and skip Jameson's stuff. So, but he had a little bit of a situation trying to get himself in. But I'll go ahead and start. James Herrod was born in Pennsylvania. And that's a little bit different, number one, right off the bat, because most of the first settlers here in Kentucky were Virginians or North Carolinians that first came into Kentucky. But James Herrod was born in Pennsylvania. I was one of 12 different kids. Interesting side note about him. Let's see, I got a message. Sounds like we almost got Jameson in here, guys. Sorry, literally live. You're seeing it as it happens. But his father's first wife and his brother Sam were actually killed by Native Americans. And that's something that we read, that if you've watched a lot of the stuff that we do at Family Tree Nuts, we try to reflect on that a little bit. We read it and move on. Now, let's take that in perspective. You know, many of you people watching have a brother. Imagine that your brother was killed by Native Americans. I don't think that's just something that we say and just move on. I mean, that's a big deal. This is the world that these people lived in. And it's not just these people of this time, but it's pretty much people all throughout time before that. That's something that we in today's world cannot grasp and realize of living in a place where at any day, any minute, you know, you could be killed by somebody that you might consider an enemy or an outlaw kind of thing. We don't have to worry about that in our world today. But so his brother Sam was murdered. And once again, we're not taking sides. I know there was atrocities on both sides. Every time I talk about stuff like this, we'll say, well, what about the Europeans? What did they do to the Native Americans? Both sides, man. Both sides. I'm not taking I'm not saying it was one-sided by any stretch of imagination. And look at the ugly mug we just got on there with me. Holy cow, the show just got 10 times worse. So.
Whoa.
What's up, buddy? You made it.
Man. We are improvising today.
Good deal.
On Chromebook, so no good headphones, nothing. We are on. We're just going wild, man. That's how it is.
It's live. It's live, brother. And I tell you what, like I told the folks earlier that I could talk for about 17 hours on James Herrod, but I did not want to go in tremendous detail until you got here, because you are the expert on James Herrod.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that title. I'll do my best. I know expert is the key. I did go to Fort Herrod a few times.
I think I've been there about 38 times, maybe. But anyway, where we're at right now, all I've told him is James Herrod, born in Pennsylvania. His father's first wife and his brother Sam was murdered by Native Americans. And I was trying to stall there a little bit for you to come in here and take the lead on that, brother.
Well, you did a great job, and you are on the money. James, did you say too that you talked about the Native Americans? They were killed. His brother Sam was killed, and his father's wife. So pretty wild start for him. I think you said too. He was born in Pennsylvania, so he came to.
Was he educated? Was he educated?
No, he was not. He was not that much educated. Hold on. I got here with me as well. I don't know if can you see this.
Oh my gosh, that is not a pioneer.
That does have nothing to do with James Herrod. But so yeah, he was not much educated. He did not have formal education. I mean, you think of time period. You know, they didn't have much school. Getting a school together was not a high priority.
Was he literate? Was he literate?
No, I think he could sign his name. I think that was about it.
Yeah, but many people say that sometimes, like everything in history, you know, they say that he kept many books in his home and things like that. So some people think that he might have been literate, but some people say he wasn't. And that's kind of the theme of probably what we're going to talk about in the story tonight is that, you know, with history, there's a lot of lot of different stories, especially that at the end here. You know, there's many different stories, and we really don't know what actually has happened.
This one definitely, the ending has a lot to go with. So he didn't have no education, but the Native Americans, kind of did shape his youth because his father, or he had some people die in his family, and while they're fleeing, so the Native Americans had attacked their home, or I guess I don't want to say a village, but where they were at in Pennsylvania, and while they were fleeing, and Herrod, his mother led them out of their home, burned the houses around them. So pretty tragic event for his youth for sure. And I know you'll read about European settlers, and like they have a big vengeance for Native Americans. So per se that Harrod, had this big vendetta or anything like that against Native Americans or anything personal. But I would assume
it didn't.
It didn't.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting, is that he didn't, he was a friend to Native Americans. There was times that Herrod, they said Herrod would help to hunt to provide for some Native American families and such that didn't have some meat. So an interesting time period. It is a massively, massively interesting time period that people today, we try to make it simple. We try to say that one was good, one was bad, or both were good. Man, it was complicated as can be. And we try to look today as the Native Americans as one big people. Oh, absolutely not, man. I mean, they were as different as different countries of Germany, Spain, Italy, Switzerland. That they were as different as that. So I don't know. I'm going on a tangent there, but
well, you bring it up because I just did a video this past week, and the person I was talking about, his life was kind of shaped by the deaths caused by Native Americans, and he had this big vendetta against them, and he kind of held his head high, bland valor, if you want to be. That's who it was about. But he was very kind of vengeful because of his mother, and a lot of his family was killed by Native Americans. And he kind of tried, killing them as well. And then you have William Whitley, who's another person who just did not get along with Native Americans, which
right. Sure, absolutely. The history's full of that for sure. On both sides. Michael Bush asked Jameson, "Did you climb the local tree to get good internet connection?" So,
that's what I'm about to do around here.
I know it was May the 4th yesterday, Star Wars Day yesterday. You kind of sound a little bit like Vader at times, with the
there you go
with the sound there. But
I'm very pleased that you knew May the 4th. I'm happy for you.
How could I not? It was everywhere, man. And yesterday, of course, was Cinco de Mayo. Hope you ate your tacos. Kathy says she's watching from Missouri. I know Joshua Clayton said he's watching from Missouri too, or Missouri, as they say. And so he signs up. There's speculation as to his birthday. There's speculation as to his birth and his death. So he's a man of mystery.
Yes, yeah, a lot of speculation, and I don't want to jump ahead, but that's where we'll get to. Herrod, marksman, very good hunter. He served as a guard and a ranger at Fort Littleton. So he was involved in, again, like a frontiersman. He was involved in the army or the military, militia, I guess probably a better way to say it. But a very, good, like I said, good marksman. I would assume he had a lot of training. He also was at Fort Pitt. He joined Henry. Is it Bouquet? Is that right?
Yeah.
Henry Bouquet.
Right.
With the British. Marched to Fort Pitt.
This is during the French and Indian War.
Yeah. So bit earlier. And again, like, it's hard to say how old Harrod was. Have an estimate, but you think about he's not that old, to be in the French and Indian War.
Well, some say that he actually enlisted. He was underage, kind of thing,
Yeah.
because the scheme of his birth date and things. They said some people think he might have even been as young as 14 years old.
Well,
when he
it's a very good possibility because they estimate that he was born between 46, and if he
42 and 46, yeah.
So he may have been, not even 20 years old. I mean, he could have been 17, if not younger.
Well, yeah. Well, one records they have is they have him listed as being 5'2", and there's lots of records we know that he was 6 foot tall, or a little over 6 foot. So that's another little. As a genealogist, we're looking for clues and stuff like that to maybe shed a little bit of light and a little bit of speculation on which it's going to be. But if he was 5'2" in the French and Indian War, later on he was 6 foot, chances are he probably was a little bit underage, kind of thing, and lied about his age, which was incredibly common, But so yeah, he's in the French and Indian War, and becomes basically a leader in his community, and he got sent on a mission, on an official mission, by the governor of Virginia, Lord Dunmore. So I'm jumping ahead of myself. Before that, he spent some time exploring, didn't he?
Yeah. So he started to cross the mountains, into Kentucky. On my notes, I put in the 60s, but not the 1960s. He went to Illinois,
not the 60s, 1760s, not right?
Yeah, but he actually was in Tennessee for a while and met Daniel Boone. So he crossed some paths. That's kind of where he went. But then
he lived in Illinois.
Yep.
He stayed in Illinois a little bit, hung out with the French trappers and things. We've got some stories here about George Rogers Clark and his exhibitions up there. But I mean, there was people living, quite a bit of French settlements in Illinois, Missouri area, 1750s, even late 1740s. It blows your mind, because you think about European settlement on the coast, kind of thing, Virginia, New York, and things like that. But there was French settlements way out on the frontier, way before the Revolutionary War and such. So a good 20 years, at least 1750s. But
definitely kind of a misconception. Think that he was out that far. I mean, people travel, people move.
He learned French. He parlait du français while he was out there, and learned some Native American languages and stuff. And all of this gained him tremendous value as a leader and a knowledgeable guy, resident expert, for what I said a minute ago about Lord Dunmore, the governor of Virginia, to go on an exhibition. Do you know what he said he went on a mission to do?
What he wanted Harrod to do? Yes. Establish first, or and which is what he did, right?
The king of England, King George, had said that he wanted to give veterans of the French and Indian War lands in Kentucky, even though that it went against the proclamation of 1763, which means that white settlement cannot happen west of the Alleghenies. But this set off the early exhibition. Now, this was early 1774. We know, we talked before, 1773, Boone tried. Hey, we got a curly head girl there. You got anything else there? So, is she a history fan?
Nah, she more likes some dolls. That's good.
Right. Sandy says she's watching up in Michigan, and Marsha's watching from Moorhead. Kathy Overton said the birthday could have been determined by baptism date, but that could be the year off too due to that. That's true, absolutely. And he was born after they changed the Gregorian calendar too, so a little younger than Boone. So he's going to Kentucky to explore. And we talked about Boone in 1773 when he went on that exhibition with Captain William Russell to settle Kentucky, but both Russell and Boone's sons were murdered there. They're in Virginia, Western Virginia, on their way in, and it was a big daggone race. I mean, we talk about settlement of Kentucky, but people were, like we said a minute ago, they were in 1760s. There was tons of people coming here. Dr. Thomas Walker was here in 1750. So this wasn't
People were coming.
Yeah. So you got to be first, man. You got to be first. It was a big race to get there. You know, the McConnells were trying to get there from Pennsylvania to settle into modern day Lexington, kind of thing. So Benjamin Logan was just a few months behind the Boone's Party. All these guys got there within a few months, these groups of trying to settle and be first to get rich.
That's the plan for everybody, man. That's the plan. But yeah, he's, right there ahead of Boone, I guess is what we should say. Oh man,
yeah,
got
good night.
Kiss in there.
But Michael Bush says Herrod married his sixth cousin, Ann Coburn. Coburn's still a popular name in the area around here. I thought that was pretty cool. So he brings them in. Some say 38, 39, 40 men or so. They go. They leave out of modern day Pittsburgh. Go down the Monongahela, get into the Ohio, go into the Kentucky River, enter into modern day Mercer County, and I think it was June of 1774. They build Fort Herrod. And what is Fort Herrod?
Well, what is Fort Herrod? So, I mean, that would be the first settlement. Now, they originally established what would be called Harrodstown, named after him, of course, and which eventually becomes Harrodsburg. But they build a fort, and they start to settle in. So they kind of and at this point, I wouldn't say it's the they haven't started the fort, I guess, that you would imagine that's there now. They begin to build cabins and so forth, but they have a lot of Native American attacks, and they end up having to abandon their cabins. But then they return.
Well, yeah, because Lord Dunmore's war had erupted, and who other than Daniel Boone was sent by the governor to tell his men, Herrod and his men, to get out of there, and you got to go help defend the Western Front against, the Shawnee Uprising and such. So, they're beating feet. It's amazing. It's like what I said before you joined. There is, Boone was sent as with an entrepreneurial group. Herrod was sent by the governor of Virginia to explore the area and to create a settlement out there. In a lot of times that makes, not a lot of times, but a lot of people would say that would make Herrod official, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So it was the first. He was there first. Does that make him the father of Kentucky?
I mean, that's a pretty good statement. I mean, he was there first. He was official as well. So I can get behind that. Well, definitely. I mean, if we continue on,
well, and I want to touch base a second about Boone coming over there in 1774. Boone was another guy who was reputable. The governor, Lord Dunmore, sent him to tell Herrod that, hey, man, round up your militia and get there and organize and fight against the Shawnee uprising that's out there. And which he did. But I think that's amazing because, man, they didn't have telephone. They didn't have, the telegraph. They had, and these guys were hundreds of miles into the wilderness. They were 30 to 45 to sometimes 60 days away from the command center, I guess you'd say. And he knew that this uprising was coming and sent Boone to go find it. And Boone knew where to go to find them.
Yeah, that's probably even more impressive to say, hey Daniel, buddy, come over here. I'm gonna need to travel a few hundred miles. Go find James and tell him that we need his help. And but okay, I'll go get him. And that's the story. That's how it went.
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
Yeah, definitely impressive. And I know that of course, the Battle of Point Pleasant happened. The only battle in Lord Dunmore's war there in 1774. Many people say that was the very first battle of the Revolutionary War, because it was the first time, Native American allies were fighting against the colonists of America. But Lord Dunmore was still part of the British, which he continued to be. So there's a lot of speculation, was it Lexington Concord, or was it actually the Battle of Point Pleasant there in modern day West Virginia? And I want to say, hey, I've got 3 of my very own great grandfathers that fought at that battle. So pretty excited about that one. So
the Battle of Point Pleasant.
Yeah. Including the progenitor of all the Williamsons. My mother's a Williamson, Alden Williamson. My 7th great grandfather fought there. But Kathy says, isn't this around the same time they were fighting pirates over in Virginia? I think it might be just a touch later than the pirates. I think the golden age of the piracy, I think, is 1650 to 1740-ish or so. But maybe so. Maybe I could be staying corrected there. Elaine Foreman says her ancestor Daniel Williams came later with one of Daniel Boone. His name is on the monument at Boonesborough. That's really cool. Really cool to know that for sure. But so now they're worried about Native American attacks. They just had the Battle of Point Pleasant, so they left.
Yeah, they left. So they leave, and after the Battle of Point Pleasant, Herrod rounds up about 50 men, and they set off to Harrodstown. But that's kind of what it is. They go, and in March of 1775, they arrive, and they begin building fort.
They came back, and that's an important fact right there, what you just said. That was March of 1775. What else was going on in March of 1775?
Well, I believe Daniel was headed this way as well.
With his axemen, yeah, and Colonel Henderson there at Sycamore Shoals doing the negotiations for the Transylvania Company's purchase of Kentucky from the Cherokee. So that's part of the story, kind of thing. Herod was there first. Herod was legit from the government, and Herod was there about a month or so before they started establishing Boonesborough. So he came back a second time. But
there you go. Yeah.
People think of Boonesborough as
a
place.
That's not true.
Right. And trust me, there's a rivalry to this day of the people in Harrodsburg versus like the different Boonesborough societies. A bunch of these gray-haired fellers will get, it's almost fighting words, man. They want to get out in the street and battle it out, who's more important kind of thing. So, it's black and white. It's no contest. It was definitely.
Not only was he here a year ahead, he established his fort before as well. So, I don't know what it is. Daniel Boone's more well known, but to get to it, man.
Why is Daniel Boone more well known?
Well, I can't think of the guy who wrote his autobiography, but somebody wrote a biography about him, and it took off from there. He kind of became a legend figure. So
Yeah, a little more legend than some of it's most of it's reality, kind of thing. But almost a tall tale figure and things. So
Yeah.
Okay, so everything. Okay, well, we know that what was it? May 27th, I think it was. They had the council there at um, uh, the Divine Elm there. Once they've established Boonesborough, Colonel Henderson sent for delegates from Harrodsburg, from St. Asaph there, to set up a first government of Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's kind of, which we kind of talked about this before. What went on there? What was being, I guess, determined or debated? I guess we would say, Henderson and a lot of the Boonesborough people were more like, hey, let's start on stage, this and that. But Herrod and I believe the McAfees and early settlers that were involved were kind of against it. They were the ones that pushed back and said, no, we need to stick with Virginia, stick with who we were sitting here with or by. That one of their claims was that if they became its own state, if they made Kentucky its own state, its own colony, and so forth, that could jeopardize the land that they had, because they were kind of going off the principle of Virginia land grants or how to claim your land based on Virginia. So that's what a lot of them were worried about. That was their issue. But, I understand. I wouldn't necessarily say, well, if we become a state, are you gonna something happen to my land? So those kind of things. That's kind of their side of the issue.
It's a complicated thing that it's not the most exciting kind of history. But Herrod is sent by the government. Herrod is sent by the governor of Virginia to establish a settlement there. Boone and Henderson and them, and even Logan and such, are sent there as entrepreneurs, kind of thing. They're there to make money, and they think they've made a purchase. Now, imagine the complication here. Herrod's got to be looking around and saying, "What? They bought this place. How the heck can they buy this place? Virginia owns this. Did they buy it from Virginia? No, they bought it from the Cherokees, but Virginia didn't own it. Did they own it, or did the Cherokee own it? Well, did the Shawnee own it? Who the heck owned it, man? Kind of thing." So imagine the confusion. And like you said, it would jeopardize. Herrod ends up with about 20,000 acres there in central Kentucky. And if it's all of a sudden Transylvania Company owns the land, is he going to be able to keep all his acreage? All the work that he spent, the years that he spent, and the dangers of risking his neck, he's going to lose that just because Henderson and Boone decide to come there and take it over. I mean, this is some complicated. I would have loved to have some better documents about the meetings that they had. So
like you said, I mean, not it was very political. It was a political kind of debate and issue they were trying to solve. And it would be really cool to have a little more insight, fly on the wall of information, the debates, because I mean,
absolutely, and this kind of sets precedent for the independent spirit of America for the rest of our history, kind of thing. As we expand, as we move further west, it was I really don't care what goes on back further east. I don't care what they say. They're not here. They can't tell me what to do.
They can't protect me. They're not helping me.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to build a house here in a cabin, and they're going to have to run me out of here, kind of thing. So kind of sets precedence for the future of our country and such. So Herrod ends up winning, basically. Kentucky says, Henderson, you're out of luck, pal, kind of thing. He was rewarded handsomely for his purchase with lands and such. But December 31st of 1775, or was it 1776, that it becomes Kentucky County of Virginia.
Virginia creates Kentucky County, and Harrodsburg is the county seat of Kentucky County. I mean, if you can think of the size of Kentucky, and Harrodstown, that little place, that was the county seat. So, pretty interesting.
Yeah, but then it wasn't very long that the government was moved to St. Asaph.
Yep. oh, Benjamin Logan, he made the proposal. Hey, I'll build a tavern. I'll put a jail in the fort. Let's move the county seat over here.
Tavern and a jail. We talked about that before. You got to have both. Go hand in hand. And a church, I think, right? Didn't you have to have a church?
A church, yep. You gotta have the church.
But just a few years later, the Kentucky Constitution is signed in Danville, right up the street. So is Danville the capital then for a little while? And that's another story. So
do an episode. The county seats or the capitals of Kentucky.
Yeah, there you go. Bounces around. So and it's amazing because Harrodsburg is a very nice town today, and I'm in Harrodsburg quite often, but it's not even close to being as big as Frankfort, and it could have been a much bigger place and things like that.
Danville is bigger than Harrodsburg, but yeah, yep.
So now Herrod settles in. I guess he think he found a wife.
Yeah. So he settles in, and as you would expect, tax, 1777 was a rough year for everybody settling in Kentucky. But anyway, he defends. I guess settles in good, defends his place. But yeah, he gets married in 1778 to Anne Colburn, and it's either McDonald or McDaniel. Another little mystery there that we don't know for sure about her last name. But Harrod is kind of got a lot of mystery to him, so nothing unexpected.
And her husband had been killed, by Native Americans.
She was a widow, and interesting enough, she had a son named James, and her and James Harrod had a daughter named Margaret. So, most of the time you talk about these frontiersmen, and even, I don't know, up to 100 years later, people had a lot of kids, but James Harrod did not. He only had one biological daughter, and he raised the stepson up as his own. Was very, I guess, a good father figure for him. But as the years went by, the Native American attacks began to slow down. Harrod kind of settled into a calmer. He actually owned and things kind of, I guess, change a little bit. Before we move on, I did want to mention, and we could talk about that for days. But Jane Coombs came to Harrodsburg or Harrodstown, and she is the first teacher in Kentucky. She's also possibly the first physician in Kentucky. But her name is debated as well. It could be Frances Jane Coombs, but just another plug on an interesting person who came to Harrod. And go to our YouTube channel. You can see a video about her life as well.
Yeah.
People settling in, I guess. Harrod was a representative for Virginia. He was the General Assembly there. Let's see. The
population grew dramatically. That's where people were settling. People were massively pouring. Thousands of people were pouring into the areas right there. And that's why the raids continue to happen. James Harrod had to rise up in militia. He became a captain, and eventually became a colonel in the militia, and was constantly fighting the Native Americans until his son James was captured. I think in 1786.
Yeah, and this is kind of he was captured by Native Americans in 17, and you would think this is 10 years after the bloody sevens, or however you want to phrase it, and he was captured and burned at the stake. Rough event, especially for Harrod or just anybody to kind of deal with, and that just goes to show how close he was with even his stepson. he kind of, I mean, he raised him as his own son, and it kind of put James in a bit of a shock. He kind of started taking these long hunts and these long surveying trips. Just kind of how I don't want to say the rest of his life, but I mean this was a big event that kind of in a way
some say he fell into a deep
yeah
he fell in deep depression, kind of thing. I mean, and we talked about a little bit of this before you joined on here, but we read stuff like that in passing in history. His stepson James was burned at the stake. Holy cow, man. Think about that. I mean, gosh, man. I mean, what a horrendous way to go. And this is something that, you talked that happened quite common on the frontier. Atrocities on both sides, once again. But this is the world that these people lived in. To think that you could go out and fetch some water and be captured and burned at the stake. Not going to happen any daggone day. Today we worry about we might get stuck in traffic kind of thing, but
or wait too long in the drive-through lane. Those are the burdens today.
Yeah. Just horrendous kind of thing. So he starts going on his special long hunts and things, and but he lived out a big, long, happy life, and everybody attended his funeral, and right?
No, that's where we get to the mystery part, man.
Multiple stories.
In 70 year, Kentucky becomes a state. He goes on another one long. He disappears. Never seen again. So,
right. Where'd he go?
Well, I don't know. Where do you want to start at?
The first one I want to start with is one of the ones that I think is the most, as they call it, he went on a frontier divorce.
Yeah.
What's the frontier divorce?
Well, you go on a long hunting trip and you never return because you don't want
to. Yeah. That's right. Took off, and there's some talk, and I don't want to get into it. There's too much about it, but there's some talk that his wife might have been a little bit too friendly with some of the other folks that were around there. You can speculate what that might mean, and he made a couple of statements that he didn't want to be around there anymore with her. But before he left, he did draft his own will and left everything to his wife and his daughter there. But one of the other stories is that he just went and lived with his daughter for a little while.
And which, his daughter, Margaret, which is a possibility. I mean, all these are kind of possibilities. There's really, I've heard people bring these things up, and different possibilities, but like there's no certain proof. Yes. The other thing is that he was went and he was killed by Native Americans, and the rumor, I guess, the more supposedly bones were found as well of his body by this supposed Native American attack.
He went off on a hunting trip with two other men, Bridges and Michael Stoner. Now, Michael Stoner is one of the popular names that was a big-time name in Kentucky history that most people don't know anything about. There's Stoner Creek, out there in Clark County and Bourbon County. That he was one of the very first people to settle there. And they went on a hunting trip. They were in where the three rivers come together and form the Kentucky River, and they're in modern-day Beattyville, hunting beaver. And supposedly Bridges had a beef with him about some land, and Bridges and Harrod went off to hunt while Stoner was back at camp. Stoner heard a gunshot. Bridges appears, says, "Man, I heard a gunshot too." but I saw a whole lot of evidence of some Native Americans. Let's get out of here. The owner says, no, daggone it, we're going to go look for him. And Bridger says, oh, no, we got to go, man. We got to get out of here. And eventually convinced Stoner to not go looking for him. So that leaves a lot of people to say that Bridges murdered him.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows? I don't know how to take a call, I guess.
Oh, got a hotline there. But and they even said that Bridges was found in Lexington later on selling some buttons with H's on them, kind of thing.
There you go.
Buttons were then given to Harrod's wife, who says, yes, that was James's buttons. So doesn't mean that he murdered him, but I don't know. They like you said.
Now, the one I have. I think that is there any others that you know of? I have one more. I guess rumors of his death wise.
Any other rumors you said?
Yeah. I got one more.
Well, one of them is that he was off to find the Swift mine.
Oh, yes.
The Swift silver mine.
I was wondering if I was going to get something. But yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Another one I heard, which I don't. The Swift silver mine is another rumor, speculation of silver in Eastern Kentucky that was left, and that's another rumor that he went off to look for it, but he he didn't find it. It doesn't exist. It's a rumor on top of a rumor. So,
yeah, and that's the thing about stuff like this. Without any written records and things, it's very hard to separate truth from legends. And I heard that this and I heard that, and we see that enough in our own lives, kind of thing about that stuff. But
becomes hearsay. It becomes hearsay. Someone said this, someone said that, and
there's even some people that said they saw him up at Fort Detroit, kind of thing, and it's just rumor after rumor. I mean, this is an important fella. I kind of am of the thought that this guy lived a huge part of his life on adventures, and he spent a ton of time out in the backwoods. And man, just like Daniel Boone, when he saw the smoke of his neighbor's cabin, he knew that neighbor was too daggone close. And he just had a hard time dealing with having all these people pouring around there. And he just had enough, man. Maybe him and his wife didn't get along so well. He only had the one daughter, so I'm out, man. I'm gonna back out there. So. And it's that's a mystery. Maybe he walked off a cliff at night one time, kind of night. But we don't know where he is, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's and that might be a part of the what contributes to his not being as well as Boone. Boone lived a little longer. Had to get a biography out about him, and that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, Boone lived maybe almost 3 decades. So James Herrod. So is he the father of Kentucky? Is he the legitimate father of Kentucky?
And in my mind, he's the man. He's the father of Kentucky, man. He's here first, set it up, and probably, without his guidance, or I guess push for Kentucky to be, or for the settlements to be part of Virginia and to stick to that guns, we may be in Transylvania County or the state of Transylvania or the country of Transylvania. Who knows how it went?
Yeah. We'd all be we wearing bats and stuff instead of Wildcats on our shirts, right? So,
oh man, we blue, man. Not I don't know what it would be, but.
Well, the Transylvania University is their mascots, the Pioneers, but they have embraced the whole bat. Yeah. Sandy says hello from Northern Illinois near the Wisconsin border. She's a WikiTree lady who shares the Kentucky History podcast on her profiles on WikiTree. So,
thank you. Yes, thank you.
Kathy says, has anyone seen the migration map for Native Americans in Kentucky at this time? Yeah, that's a whole nother story there, of the migration, especially the Shawnee. Shawnee, supposedly they had Kentucky. Not really, man. If you follow the decades prior to this, Shawnee moved all over the United States, kind of thing. So that's a whole nother story right there. Let's see. Kathy also says Alexander Spotswood died in 1740. So I was close to death. Not sure what she's saying there. I was close to death at this time. Josh says one of his ancestors also went looking for the Swift silver mines. That's definitely one we're going to have to do here shortly.
That is, yeah.
Maybe I can go ahead.
Pretty interesting story of its own, but yeah, we'll have to talk about that one.
Yeah, and that's 10 years prior to all this settlement of Kentucky too, kind of thing. This is 1760s and the legend of the Swift mine. So maybe you and I can go find it. So,
hey, man, that would be great if we could.
Absolutely. So, well, good. My take on James Herrod is he's one of the founding fathers, kind of thing. There's a lot of sacrifice that went on there. I really think that he's one of about 10 people that could be considered the person that opened up the West, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But definitely a person of importance. Dadburn gets overlooked and forgotten about, and
I mean, it's a fort. I mean, his fort is, and now the fort is not built on the actual location, but I mean, it's a very nice site. I encourage people to go visit it. I mean, it's great. It's a really good place to go check out. You got Fort Harrod, you got Fort Boonesborough. Hopefully, in the near future, you have Fort Logan. You can go visit as well. But you can go visit Fort Logan, but I mean, actually, like state park kind of feel. But
sure, beautiful
definitely
place. Tremendous amount of history for sure. So, was there anything else you want to say about old Colonel James Herrod before we take off?
Not much. The video, if we're going to, we're eating grapes, man. If the video that we're going to show, if we got it hooked up here,
it's ready.
The video of James Herrod that I did a while back. I will say this: the picture that is shown of James Herrod is not actually James Herrod. But if you Google James Herrod, this is the picture that pops up, and it's like, I mean, it looks like somebody who could be James Herrod, I guess, but it's not. The thumbnail on this picture or on that we showed at the beginning, that's the only picture. It's a drawing, so I don't know if it's even accurate, really.
Right. Definitely. Darla says, never thought about Kentucky being called Transylvania. Very interesting. Yeah, imagine so. And all right. So I guess we'll take off for now. We've got a great show planned for next week, too. I'm ready to go with that. So look forward to that. And I guess we'll see you next week, Jameson.
Yeah, man. Check out YouTube channels and subscribe to those. And we'll be here next week.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, more formal circumstances.
More formal circumstances and a little bit less technical difficulties. But hey, it's live. It's absolutely live. We'll sign off, guys. Hope you guys have a great week. Make sure you kiss your mom, call your mom, go see your mom, make your mom a cake. Whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Happy Mother's Day, right? Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, man. And hey, remember, family tree nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
John Herrod and Sarah Moore Herrod. His birth, it is said he could have been born between the years of 1742 and 1746. He had 11 siblings. He had little formal education in his youth. Much of Herrod's youth was shaped by Native Americans. His father's first wife was killed by Native Americans, and so was his brother Sam. While fleeing their home in Great Cove, Pennsylvania, while Herrod was a child, his mother led them through the forest while Native Americans burnt houses around them. Herrod became an excellent marksman and and ranger in 1755 at Fort Littleton. He joined Henry Bouquet's British forces as they marched to Fort July 1763. He began his journeys across the 1760s. He went to Illinois first and then Kentucky and Tennessee. While in Tennessee, he met Daniel Boone. Harrod set out to establish the European settlement in Kentucky during the early 1770s. He led a small group of men down the Ohio and Kentucky River and settled in what is now Mercer County. In June 1774, they established Harrodstown, which is now Harrodsburg. Others had joined the group, but Lord Dunmore's War threatened the settlers. After a Native American attack, the group was left vulnerable, so they abandoned 30 cabins. In March of 1775, they arrived and began building a fort. The Pennsylvania Convention was held at Boonesborough. Herrod represented his part of the state and did not accept Richard Henderson's dominance with the Transylvania. He led a successful protest against Henderson. When Virginia in 1776, Harrodsburg became the county seat. Herrod led many groups during his years in search for provisions and gunpowder. American attacks persisted during 1777 and throughout the following. He led more expeditions in 1780, 82, and 86. In 1778, he married Anne Colburn McDonald. She was a widow, and her husband had been killed by natives. Anne was left with her son James. Her and James Herrod had a daughter named Margaret. As Native American attacks began to lessen, Herrod settled into a calmer life. He and his 6 slaves farmed his land at Bowling Springs. In 1779, Herrod was a representative in the Virginia General Assembly. In November of 1787, Herrod's stepson James was captured by natives and burned at the stake. This event shocked James Herrod, and he went on a long surveying and hunting trip. In 1792, Herrod went on another hunting trip. He disappeared and was never heard from again. Rumors, of course, circulate about his death. One story, and possibly the most believed, goes that he was killed by a Native American, who he passed and was then shot in the back. Another story says a man named Bridges killed him. It is said that Herrod's bones and clothes were found in a cave. However, he could have left and died of old age elsewhere. I hope you've enjoyed learning about James Herrod, a unique story his life gives us. His birth is unknown, as his death is as well. There is no gravesite for James Herrod. With Daniel Boone having a biography written about him, he became the famous Kentucky frontiersman, and James Herrod is often overlooked, even though he was the first to establish a permanent settlement. With his many engagements with Native Americans, Herrod never came to hate them. You can visit a replica of Fort Herrod in Harrodsburg, Kentucky today. I highly recommend it. Don't forget to try out audibletrial.com/kyhistorypod to get a free book of your choosing. Like, subscribe, and share this video and the Kentucky History channel for more Kentucky history content. If you feel like it, check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/kyhistorypod. Find us on Twitter and Facebook at kyhistorypod. And don't forget to check out the Land Between the Meadows Kentucky History Podcast for more in-depth history of Kentucky. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.